In recent weeks, Mark Zuckerberg and Facebook have faced criticism for refusing to remove an anti-Joe Biden ad from the Trump campaign. The ad says that Joe Biden used his influence as vice president and withheld aid from Ukraine to protect his son's shady business dealings from a Ukrainian prosecutor who was eventually fired.
Joe Biden promised Ukraine $1 billion if they fired the prosecutor investigating his son's company.
If the prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting the money. Oh, son of a bitch. Got fired.
But when President Trump asks Ukraine to investigate corruption, the Democrats want to impeach him, and their media lapdogs fall in line. They lost the election. Now they want to steal this one.
In response, the Biden campaign issued a request to Facebook and other social media platforms to remove the ad on the ground that it's false, a request that Facebook denied, saying that the company doesn't want to police the democratic process, under a belief that in mature democracies with a free press, political speech is already arguably the most scrutinized speech there is. That's a rare wise move from Facebook. If you ask me, Facebook should simply be a place to speak, not the authority on what to say. In a free and open environment for speech, when somebody lies, you can use your speech to challenge that lie. And no matter how small it starts, the truth has a nasty habit of rising organically. If Facebook instead decides to police the truth, they have to deal with two difficult questions. What is the truth, and who decides? It seems to me that dismissing the circumstantial case against Biden would also require dismissing all claims of a Trump quid pro quo with Ukraine, since that case lacks direct evidence also. So now nobody's allowed to speculate about political scandal. We can only talk about it if it's 100% proven true, and in politics, that's rarely the case. And if we want Facebook to make that evidence assessment, that requires surrendering our own capacity to do that for ourselves. To judge what's true, I'd like to see the claim and the evidence for myself, not trust Zuckerberg or his outsourced helpers to do that for me. And in a surprising development, it appears, and I stress that word appears because I'm not really convinced of his authenticity, but it appears that Mark Zuckerberg actually agrees. Zuck spoke at Georgetown University last week to defend free speech on his platform, and at the risk of seeing a wave of you unsubscribe faster than Susan WikiWiki can automatically or accidentally unsubscribe you anyway, I kinda liked the speech. Sure, it went off into weird areas and it had the usual nonsense progressive buzzword mixed salad on the side, but on the philosophical value of free speech and expression, he sounded less like an Area 51 escapee learning human mannerisms on the fly, and more like Zuck Stuart Mill.
It is our commitment to each other that we hold each other's right to express ourselves and be heard above our own desire to always get our way in every debate. More people across the spectrum believe that achieving the political outcomes that they think matter is more important than every person having a voice and being heard. And I think that that's dangerous. I believe that we have two responsibilities: to fight to uphold as wide of a definition of freedom of expression as possible, and to not allow the definition of what is considered dangerous to expand beyond what is absolutely necessary. Some hold the view that since the stakes are now so high, they can no longer trust their fellow citizens with the power to communicate and to decide what to believe for themselves. I personally believe that this is more dangerous for democracy over the long term than almost any speech. As a principle, in a democracy, I believe that people should decide what is credible, not tech companies.
Now don't get me wrong, I don't actually trust him to uphold these principles, but naively, I like to hope that maybe he's starting to see the problems with erring on the side of censorship and control instead of erring on the side of freedom. He'll have to put this philosophy into practice, of course, but if I'm going to spend so much time ripping people for saying the wrong things about free speech, I have to be willing to praise those same people when maybe they start to get it, or at least they start to say the right things, whether or not you believe them. But in classic Zuck style, he's networked billions of friends, but nobody wants to be his. He's getting ripped from all sides for this speech. From the right for the hypocrisy of his track record of censoring conservative and libertarian and just non-progressive speech, and from the left for claiming that people ought to be free to think and speak for themselves. Sounds exaggerated, but it isn't. This is the argument that Brian Stelter forwarded in criticizing Zuckerberg's speech on CNN on Sunday morning.
Facebook is making it harder to know what's true. Facebook is knowingly accepting money from people who they know are lying. Broadcast television networks do have to accept ads from anybody as well when you're running for a campaign, but the difference with Facebook is that Facebook allows you to reach the most vulnerable people over and over and over and again, and target them with lies over and over and over again.
Ooh, Facebook is platforming lies, says the guy whose network spearheaded 2+ years of truth-challenged Russiagate conspiracy theorizing, says the guy who personally speculates about Trump's health without any qualification or evidence whatsoever.
Is he suffering from some sort of illness? Something's wrong. There are lots of theories about what it is, but we can't tiptoe around it anymore. We've got to talk about this.
Says the guy who platforms claims that Trump is worse than all of the last century's mass murderers combined, unchallenged.
Trump is as destructive a person in this century as Hitler, Stalin, and Mao were in the last century. He may be responsible for many more million deaths than they were.
Says the guy who protected Jussie Smollett weeks after the case was objectively exposed as a fraud.
I do think he just wants to get back to work. The narrative is once again changed from victim, to villain, back to victim. People don't know what to believe, and we may never really know what happened on the street that night in Chicago.
There is no standard of censoring lies from Trump that doesn't also implicate the lies of Stelter and his network. Demanding Facebook remove Trump's ad requires Facebook also remove this CNN content under any honest standard and reasoning. But the hypocrisy and the double standard isn't even the worst part. It's the paternalism. It's the way he looks down on you peasants. Oh, you, the helpless people of the vulnerable communities. It's one thing when the left thinks that you're so lowly that you can't take care of your family, take care of your education, take care of your healthcare, that every service conceivable should be nationalized and socialized because you sad peons can't provide for yourself. But it's another thing still when they think that you're so pathetic that you can't even think for yourself, that you're such an idiot rube that even a whiff of misinformation will dupe you into blindly following your manipulator. You don't need Stelter to define your truth. You have the same equipment he does between those temples. It's not like he's running anything fancy. We all have a capacity to think, and just like Trump and Stelter, we all have a capacity to make mistakes and to lie as well. This segment bemoans how all Trump does is lie, lie, lie.
I think what a serial liar like Trump counts on is his ability to wear us down, to wear us out.
All while acknowledging that others are going to do it too.
And it's not just Trump that's going to do this. Other politicians will in the future as well. That's personally why I'm worried.
Yeah. Politics and lies are a legendary combination. Name a more iconic couple. I'll wait. They never separate. And that's because lying, or at least stretching the truth, or making mistakes are part of the human condition. We all do it. From a powerful president's advertisement to an anonymous troll's comment on it. The misguided belief that we can control that human tendency to tell untruths is a symptom of a larger problem of rejecting the real world in all of its harshness. Ooh, I don't want to live in a world with AR-15s. Yeah, well, you do. Ooh, I don't want to live in a world with bigotry or intolerance. Yeah, well, you do. Ooh, I don't want to live in a world with liars. Yeah, well, you do. The only antidote to the inherent dangers of the world is to equip yourself to defend against them, not the impossible task of controlling every person at every time. To the extent that every human can and will lie, centralizing control over those lies only ensures that the lies of the powerful get protection from scrutiny. I don't want Trump's lies protected. I don't want CNN's lies protected. I don't want my lies protected. I'm not trying to tell them, but I'm sure they happen. I want everyone free to bring their information to the table and for us all to examine the evidence in unobstructed sunlight, not the sunlight the authority allows us. And even though I'm obviously in solidarity with the Pale Squad, a little sunlight for these guys would definitely be of benefit. Thanks as always for listening and for supporting this channel. Always appreciate that thoughtful discussion down below, and especially over on Twitter. That is at ML Christiansen. You're always welcome to coming out and chat in my live streams. Those are linked down in the description. Looking forward to it. Goodbye.